Close the door. They have their own little Instagram account, and they got really worked up during the presidential campaigns, and they put their own pitches out, which was basically zip line parks in rainbow colors versus everything at the Lego store being $1.
I'm having a hard time arguing with any of those platforms.
Right?
Hey, Jacob, should we be muting ourselves in between questions, or are you gonna mute us?
Hey, Jill.
Do your best to mute yourself. I will attempt to mute, but I've got a lot going on. We're monitoring questions coming in from the community and all of that. So,
Sure. Hi,
Dale,
Jill.
is your audio good?
Should be. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Excellent.
Right.
And just quadruple checking, JL Curry.
Yep, just think initials, J and L.
All right. And for those of you who are joining, thank you so much for coming. We will be getting started in just about 2 minutes. To answer one question that came up already, we will be live streaming this on the Eastside Progressives YouTube channel. And it will also be available after the fact on that channel if folks who can't make it tonight, neighbors or what have you, want to view it, they can do it there. It won't be available right away. YouTube does some sort of a processing thing, but it should be available by tomorrow morning on that channel. And thank you everyone for joining. We'll be getting started in just about a minute or two here.
There it is.
So the time is 6:30. We are now live on YouTube as well as on Zoom. And I think we're going to open it up. So I will welcome everybody first off to our forum. I want to thank everybody so much for coming today. My name is Jacob. I'm the current chair of the Eastside Progressives. We're holding this forum tonight. We're a group of volunteers that are dedicated to building a strong progressive movement on the east side of Madison. A huge part of that is serving our community through holding events that are just like this, so that you can meet the people who are running for office. And we're going to hear from the Aldermanic candidates from Districts 3 and 16. For District 3, we have Charlie Rowe and Lindsay Lemmer. Lindsay Lemmer is currently the incumbent in that seat. For District 16, we have Dale Curry and Matt Trammell. There's no incumbent in that one. Again, thank you all for joining. The candidates are each going to have 2 minutes to give an opening statement, and then questions will begin. All candidates are going to answer all questions. We'll do it in alternating order. Each candidate is going to have between 1 and 2 minutes to answer each question. I'll announce the time box before each question, and time will be kept in chat. Samantha Klein is going to be keeping time for us, and she will announce 30-second warnings, 10-second warnings, and time in the chat. So candidates, if you could please just make sure you keep the chat open for that, you'll be able to see those warnings. There'll be a series of questions. Following the questions, there will be an opportunity for each candidate to give a 2-minute closing statement. We have a starting set of questions that were formulated based on feedback from the community, as well as just current events. If you have a question as an attendee, feel free to put it into the chat. We have some time set aside for attendee questions, and we'll do our best to get to it. That's all from me. With that, I will open it up for opening statements. And we will start on District 3 with Charlie Rowe. 2 minutes.
Hello, I want to thank everybody. There's so many people here just in the forum, but Eastside Progressives, thank you for hosting us all, making it convenient for everybody. There's a lot of things going out and meetings to be at right now. I am running for Alder in the Eastside District 3. I have been in the same residence for 6 years here, but I've spent about 22 years of my life on the east side of Madison. I was just chatting with some of the others in this group here about where exactly my home is on the east side of Madison. But I'm here with my 2 children, and I am running because I saw a need to have a true democracy in our city government, a true representative of the people. I felt like there was a need to rise up at this time and be a bipartisan representative. So I don't want to take up too much time because I can get very lengthy. I know I'm a dark horse in this, and it's quite a divergent campaign from COVID and just me being who I am. So thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over now to Lindsay, 2 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for joining. And thank you so much to the Eastside Progressives for organizing this. My name is Lindsay Lemmer, and I'm running for re-election as a District 3 Alder on the Madison City Council. I was born and raised in Madison, and my partner and I live in the Heritage Heights neighborhood. In addition to currently serving on the council, I've also seen the legislative process from the other side and advocated for important legislation as a president of the Wisconsin chapter of the National Organization for Women, where I've worked on equity issues, feminist issues, LGBTQ equality, and racial justice. I've also worked to increase access to the ballot box as the communications chair for the Dane County Voter ID Coalition, which is led by the NAACP and the League of Women Voters. On the council, I serve on 7 committees, including the Plan Commission and the Board of Health. My professional background is in communications, and I have a Master of Business Administration, which helps me to be a good steward of public dollars. A couple of the items that I'm most proud of from this past term include sponsoring a mobile crisis unit to respond to behavioral health calls, mental health calls, things that are not public safety issues. I also sponsored a pilot program with the Harambee Village doulas to address racial disparities in maternal and infant mortality rates. And I sponsored the Small Business Equity and Recovery Program to get direly needed aid to businesses struggling due to COVID. I'm also proud of my work on Alder Communications. I provide comprehensive updates. I've organized forums and provided informational videos. I think it's that work as a strong communicator and an advocate for my district that has earned me the support of folks like former District 3 Alder Lauren Kinnair, State Senator Melissa Eggard, all of the neighborhood association presidents in my district, current Mayor Satya Rose Conway, County Board Supervisor Kristen Audette, and many others. Over this next term, I would intend to put my skills to work on 3 key priorities: public safety and health,
Is time.
and addressing our inequities and disparities. Thank you.
That is time. Thank you very much. We'll move now to District 16. I will invite Matt Trammell to give a 2-minute opening statement.
Well, thanks, Jacob. First, I want to thank the Eastside Progressives for welcoming all of us to this important forum. We have some big challenges to confront together as a community. We all want and need safe communities, and at the same time, we need to move forward on police reforms that protect the lives and dignity of every citizen, but we have to prioritize and invest in both. We know that an effective and equitable COVID vaccine rollout is the key to returning to normalcy by getting our teachers and kids safely back into schools and fully reopening our businesses in the weeks and the months ahead. We simply cannot fail at this mission. And we understand that pro-growth and pro-people economic development is critical to all of our futures. Madison can become a national success story for a modern, vibrant, inclusive city that comes together to strengthen economic opportunities for all of us. So while these are big challenges, they also offer great opportunities. We can have safe neighborhoods and strong communities. We can attract more economic development on the east side that offers growth and opportunity for all. We can ensure an effective and equitable COVID vaccine rollout, and surely we can push toward more sustainable and accessible transit solutions on the east side. I'm running for Alder because I envision a better District 16 and a better east side, one that's more vibrant, a growing place to live, work, and play for every single member of our community.
Thank you very much. I will now turn the floor over to JL Curry to give a 2-minute opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. I'm JL Curry, and to echo everyone that's gone before me, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight, and to Eastside Progressives for providing the space for dialogue. So Madison being a successful area or a successful city, I am born and raised in Madison, and what you could call a Madison successful story. MMSD and a lot of other local businesses talk about growing your own. And I'm a product of not only the MMSD school district, but UW-Madison alumni. I'm also a parent who's currently parenting kids in the MMSD district. So I know firsthand the challenges that students and their families have faced during this pandemic, as well as my perspective as a social service provider working on the front lines of the housing crisis at YWCA Madison. As a homegrown leader, I have an investment in this community. I'm raising children, and as a Black woman, want to see them as well as all residents thrive. I'm running for Alder to provide a lived experience perspective as a Black young professional who's lived her whole life here on the East Side, as well as been working the front lines of the housing crisis. And I look forward to engaging in dialogue and answering your questions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We'll move on to the first question. Now for this one, we'll revert the order. We'll start with District 3 and then move on to District 16. And the first question is, what does equity mean to you, and how will you apply equity to your work on the council if you are elected? We'll start this one on District 3 with Lindsay Lemmer. It is a 1-minute question. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. We have serious work to do to address Madison's racial inequities and disparities. They exist across every sector, from healthcare to employment, to education, to public safety. Housing has to be a top priority as far as addressing our racial inequities. We have a very serious housing crisis in this city. And a lot of that is can be addressed by acknowledging that we have leftover bids in our zoning ordinances from redlining. And I'm proud that I am sponsoring updates to our zoning ordinances to address that. We need to look at racism as a public health crisis that it is. That's why I supported a program with the Harambee Village doulas to address racial disparities in maternal and infant mortality rates. I think those are the kinds of solutions that we need to continue to do and look at if we're going to be serious about addressing these problems. We need to increase access to youth programs.
I'm sorry, Lindsay, that is time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to Charlie. 1 minute. Thank you.
Yes, it is a strange thing to have racism declared a public health crisis, but I have learned the last 6 years living here what that exactly means. I'm really going to invite you. I don't want to give you my bio here. I don't want to regurgitate the same things. I want to have new conversations here. And so I'm going to invite you to go to my website. We'll drop the links, but my experience here in District 3 and as a resident during, excuse me, Ms. Lemmer's current term, my world was turned upside down. I was working in a law firm until tragedy came to my door firsthand, and it did involve the Madison police. Racism affects you when your services aren't being met the same way, and your alder isn't fighting for you the same way as she is her district. And it could land you in the hospital with a heart attack, or it could mean you're stressed. We need to address these intersectionally.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to District 16. This one goes to JL Curry first. 1 minute.
I was going to ask to restart the question, but I think it was, what does equity mean to you?
Yep, I can definitely do that. What does equity mean to you, and how will you apply equity to your work on the council if you are elected?
Absolutely. Thank you. So I hear often equity and equality used in the same definition or phrase, and they are different. Equity to me means that everyone has the resources that they need to be able to thrive and succeed. And so equity, for example, looks like leveraging power and amplifying voices that are underrepresented. So equity to me, especially in terms of our upcoming election, is electing candidates to office who have lived experience and have been public servants of this community for quite some time. And it means being able to set aside power or influence of oneself for the good of the whole community. And how I will amplify that as an alder on the council is an extension of my everyday life. As a Black woman, equity is always at the forefront because we all know of the disparate disparities and outcomes in our community.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over now to Matt Trammell, 1 minute.
Thanks. Well, particularly over the past 4 years, racial inequality has become more stark and more clear than ever before. And now we're having hard discussions about finally trying to get this right. But I believe that we do have a renewed opportunity to do that. And we need a sustained push to ensure the necessary outcomes are achieved. And that means that all parts of our society, government institutions, business leaders, and private industry, local leaders, and the public, of course, come together to reform the systems that have institutionalized inequality in our society. And across our society, and especially in local government, where policy is debated and created, we need to be intentional in our efforts to create equitable outcomes for all underrepresented communities. If I earn the opportunity to be alder, I am committed to that approach.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to next question. So coming as a surprise to no one, crime and safety are ongoing topics of discussion on the ground in both District 3 and in District 16. How do you intend to work with local authorities, neighborhood associations, and other groups on this issue? And what are your priority actions to address concerns about crime and safety? This is a 1.5-minute question. We'll go to District 3 first, to Charlie Rowe.
Without a doubt, this affects every square inch of District 3. I live in the diehard blue-collar East Side that has been rapidly deteriorating over the last decade. But these new homes and this like intentional dense building that's happening across the interstate, they're being hit too. Anytime you have new homes, they're going to be hit. I discussed this recently with somebody and I said, the thing is, we have neighborhood associations. We have the Good Neighbor Project. Love them or hate them, Kim does the work. He puts it in and he is working to be a community tie with our police officers. I think we need to alleviate police officers' responsibilities, use them where we think they're good at, but there are already organizations, there's already mental health response teams, there's already things our current council are doing. We need to push those initiatives and we need to really hear the voice of the people. Ahead, please go listen to my Madison Story Slam and hear how council has not listened sometime.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Lindsay Lemmer, 2 minutes, or sorry, 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. Well, public safety is a primary responsibility of local government to keep people safe. I think that we need to do things like continuing to invest in our violence prevention unit, which we just expanded within Public Health Madison and Dane County, which looks at root cause analysis of violence and interrupting the cycle of violence and operates as a hub. So the great organizations that have been working on this issue, such as the Focused Interruption Coalition, are coming together and they're communicating and they're collaborating. We also need to work to implement the recommendations of the MPD Ad Hoc Committee report, which includes 177 recommendations for increasing community trust and accountability in policing. And it does also require us to make sure that the community resources within MPD are there. I'm proud that we have a pilot mobile crisis unit in the budget this year, which includes a community paramedic and a crisis worker to respond to public safety or non-public safety issues, mental health calls, behavioral health calls. And we need to also recognize that we have disparate access to opportunity in our city. And we need to deal with that by increasing support to youth. We need to invest in our libraries. We need to invest in community centers.
Thank you very much. For District 16, this one will go first to Matt Trammell. Matt Trammell, a minute and a half.
Well, being safe and secure in your home and in your community is a direct contributor to quality of life. Unfortunately, the continued rise of auto thefts and other crimes on the east side and across Madison is of growing concern. Meanwhile, police reform discussions have taken on renewed urgency following last summer's nationwide protests over police brutality, peaceful protests that unfortunately turned violent with downtown Madison experiencing riots and looting. The Common Council has an important role to play during this important community discussion. And as Alder, I can make a positive impact by listening to the concerns of my constituents to ensure that their issues are being addressed by any potential reforms. But we also need all stakeholders to come together to make concrete policy changes that can happen quickly, that provide transparency and promote community trust. Some widely discussed policies include police worn body cameras, banning chokeholds, requiring de-escalation, and comprehensive incident reporting. From the civic side, and importantly, we need strong youth outreach and after-school programs, a solid jobs and employment environment that promotes the dignity of work. We also need strong community centers, neighborhood associations, and neighbor awareness, making sure that we're all working together to support public safety. But as this process unfolds, and even as we manage through a potentially difficult budget, we also need to support our police department with consistent funding.
All right, thank you very much. I will turn it over now to JL Curry, a minute and a half.
Thank you. So calls for public safety or an enhancement to public safety in lieu of crime and things that we're seeing from the pandemic is real, but also calls, long overheard calls for greater accountability and transparency within law enforcement, specifically Madison Police Department, has also been a dynamic, and neither one can be ignored. And so I think it's interesting, the first question that was asked was, what does equity mean to us? Because equity also, in this terms in public safety, to me, is looking at root causes of crime and being able to solve the problem instead of still applying Band-Aid situations, which means a lot of times law enforcement response and then a arrest or whatever have you. So as Alder, again, drawing on my strong networks that I already have, just being a lifelong Madisonian, but also a public servant who has been working in social services for over a decade. It also calls for opportunities. It also includes bridging opportunity gaps, which we have one right in our district in Owl Creek neighborhood. And so utilizing the strong networks that I already have in order to build collective for not only the District 16, but the East Side and overall Madison.
Thank you very much. Next question involves housing. So Madison is in the midst of a housing shortage. This has led to multiple issues of affordability. We have individuals and families who are looking for a place to live and can't find one, as well as people who need help to stay in the homes that they've been in. What are your overall positions and specific plans to address the lack of affordable housing in both District 3 and District 16? This one goes first to Lindsay Lemmer for 1.5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we absolutely have a very serious housing crisis in this city. We haven't seen a vacancy rate above 5% in many years. A 5% vacancy rate is what's considered healthy. And more than half of renters are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. And the situation isn't much better if you're a homeowner. And people are at the same time being priced out of their homes with high property taxes. So we have a lot of work to do. As I mentioned, I'm sponsoring updates to our zoning ordinances that will increase more of the missing middle housing that we desperately need in this city, and will increase density in the areas where it's needed the most, near amenities. I also supported a COVID relief fund in this year's budget that provides emergency rent assistance to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that nobody becomes housing insecure as a result of this pandemic. We need to be creative. I supported increasing our investment in land banking, which is another tool we have to make sure that we were putting housing where it is needed the most by the needed amenities, so people have what they need in order to do well. And we need to increase the amount of both affordable and market rate housing in this city.
Thank you very much. And just to acknowledge, there was a request to put the questions into chat. I will do that from here on out. Samantha did put this one in. We'll move now to Charlie Rowe, 1.5 minutes for that question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Housing is without a doubt a matter of public safety. It's a matter of equity. It's a matter of sustainability of our communities. I have watched the homes that surround Kennedy School deteriorate, not only in their value, because there is not a real fight on Common Council to maintain vitality of our district, but also because there is a need for a real conversation about what affordable housing and what market rate is. It's determined right now by these ridiculous things, and most people are paying over 3 times. I'm sorry, I'm going to back up. We work these, these problems out. What is, 1/3 of your monthly income? Well, most people are paying over that, and most people owe that, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. COVID recovery means that we need to find solutions to keep these people in their homes. It means that we need to home and shelter our homeless citizens, but it means also that we need to do intentional building and keep them safe once they're built.
Thank you very much. We'll move down to District 16. Matt Trammell, 1.5 minutes on this question.
Well, regarding our affordable housing crisis, we need fast action. We also need to acknowledge that the most significant factor that negatively affects affordability is a lack of supply of multifamily housing, whether that's rental apartments or condos or townhouses. Currently, as Lindsay mentioned, there are proposed changes to sections of Madison's general ordinances, which would allow small and medium multifamily housing as a permitted use in certain zoning districts to increase housing units, housing choices, and even reinvest in older housing stock in neighborhoods. I'm absolutely supportive of those changes, which can increase housing density in some areas where it's desperately needed. Right here in District 16, we have some critical thoroughfares like Cottage Grove Road and Monona Drive that can evolve into more pedestrian-friendly, livable communities by emphasizing more density and multifamily housing options along with, say, ground-level retail. So we also need more resources beyond what just the City of Madison programs offer. I've actually recently talked to a former colleague and housing industry leader who pointed to really positive momentum on this issue nationwide. He believes that this is perhaps the best environment for federal support on affordable issues in a generation based on the Biden administration's bold infrastructure plans. Recently, Dane County announced a regional housing study, which will provide much better data and analysis of current housing and demographic trends, which will be critical as we seek to hopefully leverage additional federal funds in the years ahead to help solve these problems.
That is time. Thank you very much, Matt. We'll move now to JL Curry, minute and a half.
Thank you. So I'm going to dispute the question a little bit and say that we don't necessarily have a shortage of housing. We have a shortage of affordable housing. Now, my work at the YWCA obviously involves housing and affordability, specifically with homeless populations. And so affordability really is the key here. And so we also have to, going back to equity and root causes, we need to focus on providing life and family sustaining wages. Affordability is hard for everybody, but especially those who are impoverished, and especially maintaining housing. So I like the point of the question talking about being able to help maintain stay in your homes. So I have firsthand experience of providing wraparound services as a shelter case manager, working with families experiencing homelessness, all the way to providing outreach to encampments and downtown areas during wee hours of the night to try to encourage folks who are sleeping on the streets or in their cars to shelter. And we can't talk about affordable housing, again, without talking about all forms of housing, like everyone else has already mentioned as well, but thinking too about our elderly and assisted living and kind of the increase there. And so focusing in a broad sense of housing and all the intersections of everyone who's a resident, but also looking at affordability being key.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next question. This from the crowd. It has to do with parks. Now, all of us here on the Far East Side, we love the outdoors. It's a big reason we live here. We enjoy our neighborhood parks. We enjoy our conservation parks. And we have a lot of recreational trails that we also enjoy. So the question is, what are your plans and priorities for improving and enhancing these assets? This is a minute and a half question. We'll go to District 3 first, to Charlie Rowe.
Yes, I am one of those people that I am fortunate enough. My backyard is a city park, and I have watched improvements take place with our neighbors coming in and planting community gardens. They're wonderful, and I really believe that these types of community intersectional events, if you want to call them that, will not only bring a sense of safety and trust back to our communities in our district, but it will also bring a sense of ownership and belonging. I know that there's a new park that sprung up on the other side of Milwaukee, over where Miss Lemmer lives, and that's great, but I would love to see a city pool come in, or I would love to see the hundreds of children that are living in that little redlined area called the Meadows Apartments, who have a swimming pool, but all of our kids run across the street and go in their pool. I know that we have the ability to see these things, to beautify our walks, to extend the city pathway from that side of 51 over here. If you make the bridge, make the path extend. I think it's going to be a matter of getting to work for some people.
Thank you very much, Charlie. We'll move to Lindsay now. A minute and a half.
Thank you. Parks have been a priority for me. I did work to make sure that we had Galaxy Park in the budget this past year. That is a park next to an apartment complex that has more than 150 children in it who did not have a place to play until we had that park in place. Also supported the opening of North Star Dog Park here, in my neighborhood. I've worked to provide improvements to Portland Park in Rolling Meadows, including a new basketball court and getting rid of a non-functional light pole and increasing the play items in that park. And I'm working on getting a new playground equipment for Kennedy Park, which is around the corner as well. I think having places for kids to play, having beautiful green places for people to interact with their neighbors it's really key to having a lively and sustainable neighborhood. And I've also worked to get in the budget improvements to Door Creek Park, which is at the very edge of District 3 and had been envisioned as being the Elver Park of the East Side. And over the next few years, it's going to get a very nifty shelter, similar to the shelter at Tenney Park, as well as lights.
Thank you very much. We'll go to District 16 now, starting with Matt Trammell. A minute and a half.
Well, I truly believe that Madison's parks are a crown jewel of the city, and a big part of it's really, high quality of life. I happen to live right by Edna Taylor Conservation Area. It's a part of my routine as much as possible to go over there and enjoy it. I think one thing that's great about parks and the way that we treat them in the city and the way that we invest in them is that they're places that bring everybody together. And so that is, one area I think that there's really little debate about the importance of them. So we need to be making sure that all of our parks are safe, that they're accessible for everyone, and that they're properly maintained. So I'd like to work with the various neighborhood organizations to make sure that we're aligned on those priorities, and to determine any future needs and programming for our parks that can help them grow and remain the great assets that they are.
Thank you very much, Matt. Turn it to JL Curry. Minute and a half.
Thank you. So I appreciate this question, and I know it just came up recently in another forum District 16 participated in. And so, yes, as everyone before me has said, we have beautiful parks that we need to make sure that we're investing to upkeep and make sure that they are accessible for everyone. But I also think about, with us being in a pandemic, and again, having kids who have been in the house and need to get out and recreation. And with the warmer weather and summer approaching, we really have an creative opportunity to utilize parks or enhance the way that they've been utilized, specifically through organizations like the Madison School Community Recreation, or MSCR, and looking into partnering more with specific parks and the parks divisions to look to see how we could provide crucial social safety nets. So again, thinking about youth and thinking about children, thinking about all the way from life skills to recreational play and learning sports. And also looking towards increased accessibility for certain populations. So for instance, I know that there was a recent increase in accessibility of dogs in parks. And so looking to, again, enhance our parks, but also look to creative solutions coming out of a pandemic for safety, to not utilize nature and its beauty, but also to connect and build community safely.
Thank you very much. This next question relates specifically to focus on the East Side, and it goes, how will you work to prioritize the specific needs of District 3 and District 16 specifically, in light of all of the competing needs of the city as a whole? It's a 1 minute question. We'll go to District 3 first for Lindsay Limmer, 1 minute.
Thank you. Well, making sure that the needs of our district are being strongly advocated for is the primary responsibility of an alder. And I would leverage the relationships that I have made with my colleagues on the council, with the mayor, and also, my relationships at the county level and at the state level could come in handy as well. A few of the things, directly in our district that I'm proud to have accomplished in this last term include increasing the crosswalks around Kennedy Elementary and the crosswalk at Acewood Boulevard and Onyx Lane. We'll be getting flashing lights this year. I mentioned the park improvements before. I also got lights and signs at the eastern dead end of Milwaukee Street, because believe it or not, that has been a serious safety problem with cars crashing into that dead end. I supported the expansion of Cottage Grove Road from I-39 to Sprecher, which was a safety problem as well. And I worked to get a traffic circle installed at North Star and Orion to slow down cars as they entered into the neighborhood. I also, leveraging my relationships, worked to get an agreement passed.
Lindsay, sorry, that is time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Turn it over to Charlie. This is a 1 minute question.
Yes, so I know one of our umbrella issues is public safety, and the everyday invasions of our, our homes and our cars and our neighborhoods, we really need to look at why this is happening. My neighbors across 51, there's this concept that new homes are easy bait. Well, I really want to see, is it that they're easy pickings and people are coming in? Or are the people that we're calling on, is it a community problem? Do we need to address the root cause? I really want to really meet the needs of the people that aren't having their basic services met. And again, there's so plenty. I've typed it all out on my website for you. So.
Thank you very much. We'll go now to District 16. This is to Gail Curry first. 1 minute question.
Oh, these times are killing me. I will say I have the honor of actually being endorsed by current Alder Lindsay Lemmer of neighboring District 16. So I do believe wholeheartedly that whether or not both of us or neither of us are on the council, I already have a strong alliance with someone who has shared how many resolutions that she's championed for Eastside and specifically District 3. I think one thing too that we could do a better job at, especially in District 16, is there are portions of, you would think, Monona and McFarland as part of the district. And so doing some specific, very intentional outreach with our surrounding municipalities, I think in drawing again upon relationships that I've formed with the Village of McFarland trustees, as well as some council members, Christy Goforth, and a nonprofit, that's my time, but nonprofit leader who is championing things on the council.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Matt Trammell. This is a 1 minute question.
I would prioritize pro-growth, equitable economic policies that create well-paying jobs and support public health and safety while improving the quality of life for all constituents. But we have some foundational work to create more economic opportunities in this area. This includes zoning challenges, which we've talked about, which is reducing the ability to grow the housing supply. We have designated commercial areas here on the east side, particularly Flom Road, Agriculture Drive area, that are ready and able to welcome more businesses, but they feel detached from the broader community. I'm also passionate about affordable, accessible public transportation options because I believe the transportation and the ability to move around our community safely and efficiently is a significant contributor to quality of life. So as we move closer towards bus rapid transit, we need to understand all the options for bringing the route south to District 16 from the east transfer point. And we also need to make sure that it doesn't cut existing service right now. And lastly, I'll reiterate that the safe and secure communities are a top priority.
I'm sorry that is time. Thank you.
Sure.
Although, so we have gotten feedback from more than one participant, as well as a number of people in the crowd, that our times are too short. So I will be adding 30 seconds to each one moving forward. I didn't do it for that one just because I wanted to be fair to everybody, but we will be doing that moving forward. And I appreciate that feedback. So the next question is similar. It relates to city services. Specifically, how do you plan to address and maintain city services in the upcoming budget? What programs would you cut and what programs would you protect or enhance? This is a 2-minute question, and it will go first to District 3, Charlie Rowe.
The whole half of that question, your vocals dropped out for me, the last half of that. I believe the first half was how to address services in this.
Sure, I'll restate it, and I'll just say to the timer, don't count this against anybody.
Thank you.
Into the chat too, no worries. So how do you plan to address and maintain city services in the upcoming budget? And what programs would you cut? And what programs would you protect or even enhance?
Absolutely. There are, without a doubt, calls from our district to take a hard look at our police, at how much is going there, and is it the proper place that those funds should be going. I've had to, really jump on this horse and catch up to speed. And when I went down the rabbit hole of reading the police, reports that we got back that the council ordered they're not even accountable for where they are certain hours. We need to take a look at some of this. So there are definitely mental health initiatives already in the work, the community response team. I'd love to see members of our oversight board, community oversight board, being paid, for their services more than they are. I want to absolutely protect our arts and culture here in Madison. We've had from the arts community, being a musician, an active arts committee. And I believe that would bring vibrancy and economy and a pride back to Madison. We are so talented here. I would love to be on the alcohol license review committee. That is passionate for me. We have a lot of work to do on these areas. So I think that being a part of the council is really about listening to the people. And I'm going to stop there because I get on my horse and go.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Lindsay Lemmer now. This is and I'm sorry, I put it into the chat incorrectly, but this is a 2-minute question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, budgets are about priorities and they should reflect our values. And we are going to be facing an extremely difficult budget in this upcoming year, even harder than the budget was this past year, because we're going to be dealing with even more declining and contracted tax revenue. And we need to also take into account that people are really struggling. So we need to be careful with the tax burden. I think that we need to prioritize housing access. We need to increase access to all kinds of housing. We need to support youth and families. We need to make sure that we are providing good opportunities like apprenticeships in order to help address our issues of inequitable opportunities. We need to invest in our libraries. We need to invest in community centers. We need to have more access to supervised youth programming. And we need to, of course, put as a top priority basic services and certainly public safety as well. I think that we need to continue the work of expanding the mobile crisis unit program and the violence prevention unit within public health, Madison and Dane County. And I also think that with recovering from COVID, we need to look at how to increase access to child care to help support an inclusive and equitable recovery.
Thank you, Lindsay, for that. We'll move now to District 16. This one goes first to Matt Trammell. It's a 2-minute question.
Well, I'm open and honest. I'm open to honest discussions about reducing costs where we can, but it can't and shouldn't sacrifice important city services. And it certainly can't sacrifice public safety with any further cuts to the police department budget. And I did want to bring up one thing specifically. The city of Madison is being granted $49 million from the federal government as part of President Biden's American Rescue Plan. I believe that the city should immediately use a portion of those funds to invest in a new ambulance and emergency services at Station 14, which serves our neighbors who live south of the Beltline, including Twin Oaks, Liberty Place, Owl Creek, and Secret Places. Currently, emergency services can take far longer to reach these communities than other areas of Madison, which ultimately could mean the difference between life and death. In District 16, we need to ensure that all of our communities have the emergency rescue services that they have long needed and deserve as tax-paying citizens of Madison. The targeted aid from the American Rescue Plan is designed to keep frontline workers, including first responders, on the job at a critical time when we know that municipalities nationwide, including Madison, of course, have suffered strained finances and budget cuts due to the COVID pandemic. I was really encouraged to see Mayor Rhodes Conway rescind the furloughs of 1,700 of our critical city workers as a result of this cash infusion. But again, public safety is critical to the health and security of all of our neighborhoods. So let's make sure that that also includes all of our neighbors south of the Beltline.
Thank you very much. This is a 2-minute question. We'll turn it over now to JL Curry.
Thank you. So I'm going to be transparent here because I have not been in elected position and I'm a first-time candidate. And so as a social service professional, I will always gravitate towards meeting human and social needs. And so what that means is affordable housing, comprehensive mental health, AOTA treatment services, affordable health care, equitable transportation. It's a lot of things. And so as a first-time candidate, I know that I will have a learning curve with the budget process. And so I intend to be a humble leader, but also standing firm in my perspective as a social service professional. And again, addressing root causes that create other societal issues. So I know that this lens presents its own challenges, especially in lieu of vital services such as streets, emergency services, public safety, as well as a reexamination of employee classifications for city staff who are looking for raises and to be compensated for their hard work. And so I do intend to approach the budget knowing that it is a question that's asked in every forum. What cuts will you make? In transparency, until they're in front of us, I know that we're going to have to make very hard decisions. But again, going back to my by education and by career trade, meeting root causes, which means taking care of people so that they can sustain the vital services that keep our city thriving.
Thank you very much. Next question pertains to water quality. Again, East Siders, we care deeply about the quality of our lakes and our streams and of course our drinking water. How will you work with the city, county, and your East Side neighbors in providing leadership and action in preserving the quality of our water? We'll go to District 3 for this one first, and it goes to Lindsay Lemmer. It's a 2-minute question.
Okay, thank you. Well, having access to quality drinkable water is a very basic need. It doesn't get more basic than that. And we have had a very serious problem with finding PFAS in our groundwater and in our drinking water. I currently serve on the Board of Health for Madison and Dane County, and the Board of Health has a big role to play in making sure that all the testing happens to see what the levels are at and to work with the county and to really lobby the state and the federal government to make sure that these are being taken care of and that we are getting PFAS out of our system. The firefighting foam that has been used at Truax for a long time has been the primary source of the PFAS, and that is a serious problem. And it has been federal law that has required the use of that firefighting foam, and so it's helpful to know that what the source is, and now we've got to work on taking care of it and getting it out of our drinking water. So I will work to make sure that public health is playing its role in doing testing and communicating, and that we are working with the county and with the state and with the federal government to get this cleaned up.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Charlie now. This is a 2-minute question.
Yes, so it is one of these things that when you look into it, our city, along with a couple other entities, including the National Guard here, we were ordered by the DNR, I believe it was 1987, to clean up some of the waste that was running into Starkweather Creek. But it's been running into the east side of Madison. It's been leaching into the east side homes. If you take a look at where the environmental injustices and the environmental racism lines are, they're pretty much on this side of town, right where redlining took place. And it's been that long, and the city's only ordered this biomat that's theoretically working, but it's already been said by the DNR it's not working. Why are we not doing more? Why are we not cleaning it up? Why are we still allowing fireworks and other things to be used and brought and flown over our city that we already know? Not only are they affecting our waterways, our drinking water, but they're affecting our hearing. They're affecting, our nervous systems. These are all real issues that are affecting us every day. And for some reason, our Common Council keeps allowing it to happen to the east side. They keep allowing it to happen here where I live. And I think we need to take a really hard look and back up the promises that we've made. We're making really big promises I hope we keep on net zero carbons and all this cleanup. We're making big promises and we all want them, but let's work on the promises that we've been made, which is exactly the bipartisanship platform I'm running on here. Let's help the people who've been here just as much as we're helping the people that are moving here. And yeah, hopefully we can do that as a city and progress forward.
Thank you very much. We'll move to District 16 now. This one starts with JL Curry. That's a 2-minute question.
Thank you. So again, kind of leaning on my response from the last question, being a new candidate and exercising humbleness and taking advantage and immersing myself in knowledge about policies that either have already been enacted or are on the way, as well as aligning myself and building coalitions with environmentally justice focused organizations such as 350 Madison, Safe Skies, Clean Water. But in regards to comments that were previously made, we know that PFAS is affecting our east side, it's affecting our whole city, and that there's been a lot of advocacy efforts around that in clean water. And so looking at clean water as being part of environmental justice, a right that all residents should have, and looking at sustainability as well. And so not just looking at water causes specifically, but sustainability as a whole. And in District 16, we have our city landfill, for instance. And so again, drawing on coalitions with Whole Chunk Gaming Madison and some of the sustainability efforts that they've championed regarding the landfill that's right in our backyard. As well as building upon MG&E is municipal. It's our utility provider, and really tapping into both MG&E and UW-Madison as being a world-renowned institution, and also MG&E developing more green and sustainable energy sources and being able to not reinvent the wheel, but look at what's already we have in our resources and possession and enhance and build upon that. Also enhancing upon, we know that it disparately affects communities of color and BIPOC individuals and those who are already impoverished. So having, again, an eye on equity when it comes to environmental justice as well.
Thank you. I'll turn it over now to Matt Trammell, 2 minutes.
Well, there's few things that are more important than clean drinking water in a society. We have seen the disastrous outcomes in many parts of our country, including Flint, Michigan, which is still dealing with clean water issues. We saw what happened last month down in Texas when their infrastructure was not prepared to handle the storm that hit them. And many areas down there are still in water boil type of issues. And here in Madison, we know how much we value and cherish our waterways and how important they are in terms of having clean drinking water and just being able to recreate on them. So this issue has to remain at the forefront. It has to be something, as we're looking to go to, net zero carbon, like was mentioned earlier, this has to be part of the same conversation. So I'd be looking forward to working hard on this issue if elected alder.
Thank you very much. Next question pertains to transportation. And it goes, what are your ideas for improving the availability of transportation options, specifically in District 3 and District 16? This is a 2-minute question. We'll go first to Charlie Rowe in District 3.
Transportation is without a doubt needed. Sustainable and forward-thinking transportation is without a doubt needed in the east side. If you look at our maps again, it's all going northwest and south. We talked about bike paths earlier. Bikes are a very sustainable way that many Eastsiders would love to incorporate into their daily routine, but we're unable to because we don't have those paths over here. It's not just a matter of the luxury of a Sunday afternoon. It's the matter of, can we get to work in a more sustainable way, in a timely manner, and in a safe manner as well if you're crossing 51. But it's also the issues of the buses. When I left Madison, we were a gloriously praised, nationally acclaimed metro system. I've come back to not being able to get to work on our metro system because it's not timely to the east side. And a lot of people in District 3 are saying, we're going the other way. We're going farther east. We need to get out to Sun Prairie or the Burke District or out to DeForest. Madison could be working with these municipalities as well. We need to hit these promises we've made of these net zero carbons and reduce them. I love what we're doing with our e-bike systems. Madison loves what we're doing with them. We'd love to see e-bikes on the east side by our parks. Some reason we don't have them here in District 3. They've been supported, but not for District 3. There's been a lot of support out there for all of these things that we know we all need, but our alder here is not bringing them to District 3. And I've only worked in public service before with the Madison School Board as a member of Student Affairs Committee, but that taught me how to listen, and it taught me how to be a bipartisan and democratic representative. And we need to do that in this issue also for District 3.
Thank you very much, Charlie. We'll turn it over now to Lindsay. This is a 2-minute question.
Yeah, transit has been a top priority for me, and we certainly need, and I do support bus rapid transit, but we also need to increase the number of stops and the frequency of bus service out here. And we have a lot of development happening, especially east of the interstate. This is one of the last areas where there's greenfield development occurring. So we have a lot of housing units opening up, and we need to make sure that they are well served by transit. We have a good opportunity right now. Metro Transit is doing a redesign of their bus routes, and I intend to leverage this to make sure that we're getting the transit out here that we need and deserve. And we need to do that while also working to reduce emissions from vehicles by expanding access to good biking and walking networks.
Thank you. We'll move over to District 16 now. First with Matt Trammell. 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, the current BRT plan doesn't include the 16th district or the Greater East Side, which is something that needs to be addressed in upcoming planning discussions. We should be looking for ways to make sure that all of our communities have efficient and sustainable transportation options into and out of the downtown area and all across Madison. I mean, it's important to recognize that that mobility issue is really key to quality of life and the ability to have efficient, reliable, and cost-effective transit options is of paramount importance. So throughout the 2-year planning process for the BRT line, which is just kicking off right now, I'll fight hard to find ways to connect the BRT to our East Side communities. I also recently read an announcement, and Charlie just mentioned this, about the Trek e-bike stations being added to the area. I think it's a 10-year contract with the city. It was really disappointing to see that all those commitments are only for the downtown area only. I don't know why we wouldn't bring that same amenity to the East Side. And in particular, e-bike stations could be used to connect neighbors eventually to the BRT line. So again, these developments are critically important toward reducing carbon emissions generally, which is another big goal that we have. But we really have to be looking for ways to expand access to neighborhoods and communities on the East Side that are experiencing consistent mobility issues.
Thank you very much. We'll move over to JL Curry. 2 minutes.
So first off, as an owner of a car and someone that has the luxury of not needing to rely on public transportation, but working hand in hand with many folks that do, I would like for us to normalize using transportation that is not single car use. Not only is it more environmentally friendly, but I found that especially through the pandemic, sharing stories about how I've connected with biking again and my children, and bringing up the e-bikes or the Trek bike contract. And we need to look at not only the availability of transportation, but the access of it, and safe and environmentally friendly transportation. So in District 16 particularly, one thing that I am looking forward to is the reconstruction of 1218 County AB interchange, knowing that that's one of the most dangerous interchange section freeway. I know my people in Chicago call it the expressway, but it's one of the most dangerous in the nation, not just our state. And so knowing that this project intends to encompass not only safety, but progress towards freeway conversion to accommodate local and regional growth, as well as local connectivity and access. So in addition to the BRT, looking at all forms of transportation, and as well as making connections to the east side, to District 16 and 3, making sure that existing routes are not eliminated and creating additional barriers, especially to communities of color and those who depend heavily on public transportation.
Thank you very much. The next question pertains to the Common Council reforms that have been circulating recently. What are your thoughts on the proposed changes to the Common Council, specifically as it relates to the possibilities of full-time alders and a smaller council? This is a 90-second question. We'll go first to Lindsay Lemmer.
Thank you. Well, these are questions that are based on the recommendations of the Task Force on Government and Structure that met almost 100 times over 2 years to look at how to make our local government more inclusive and modern and equitable. As far as changing the size of the Common Council, yeah, the question on the ballot asks if we should increase it, decrease it, or keep it the same. I am opposed to decreasing it. I don't see a good reason to decrease it. And I have serious concerns that decreasing the size of our council is going to reduce the ability of the alders to be effective in listening to their districts and representing those voices. As far as going to full time, honestly, I think we are at a very difficult time in the city's history financially, and I would like to look at the other options that we can employ first to reduce the time that is required of being an alder. For example, the Task Force on Government Structure recommended reducing the number of boards, commissions, and committees, and this would reduce the workload of alders and would also save money. So I think things like that, could help reduce the workload of alders. And I also have concerns that going to full time is going to increase the financial needs for being able to run for office, being able to run a campaign, and those could create additional barriers. And there's those kinds of unintended consequences.
Thank you very much. We'll move it over to Charlie now, a minute and a half.
Absolutely. Lindsay, I'm really glad to hear that you changed some of your thinking on this. Maybe you've reviewed the reports again. In our ward debate, I said the same thing that I'm going to say now. I think some of the language out there that the pandering politicians going for these offices are using, it's a matter of equality. Most of these BIPOC candidates, myself included, are funded by ourselves or by the communities that want us representing them. I committed my first donation to my campaign for my own stimulus. So saying that it's not accessible to us is not the thing. It's the first time in our nation's history that we've said, we want a seat at the table. And I really think that we really have to look at these numbers, because previously, some, including Lindsay, who previously supported the idea of reducing the number of 20 to 10 and raising it from being a part-time position, about $12,000, roughly $600 to $67,000. Look at the reports. Madison tells us that we can live on $17 an hour safely here. But our Common Council is asking for what, 30 some, 26 something an hour. I think we need to make it viable to be a representative, but really scrap the plans they have on the table right now.
Thank you. We'll go to District 16 now. This one goes first to JL Curry. It's a minute and a half.
Thank you. So I am not in favor of either reducing the number of aldermanic seats or making council positions full-time. I don't know if anyone caught this towards the beginning, but in Alder Lemmer's opening statement, I believe she shared that she's on 7 committees. And we also know how long most common council meetings go. And so I agree that looking at the requirements for council, specifically reducing the number of seats, council seats on city committees, will allow our alders to focus on 1 to 2 pivotal issues that, in tangent with the mayor, will enhance their service to the city. But it will also make way for more community involvement and public input, which we know is extremely crucial as public servants. We are here to serve our residents, our neighbors, and the public. I also, as a Black woman and a BIPOC candidate, knowing that there are many of us running, I believe that these moves are homogenous and will make it increasingly harder for candidates like myself who don't have a lot of capital to run for office and or get elected. And in addition, cutting the council by, or districts by half, will leave less empowered neighborhoods and their community members at a disadvantage, and continues to allow neighborhoods with economic stability, wealth, and privilege to continue receiving the most attention and planning efforts.
Thank you. Turn it over to Matt now. This is a minute and a half question.
Well, I do think that listening to constituents is important in this process. So the advisory referendum response will offer real insights from the community on how they want their local government structured. But that said, I am not at all in favor of full-time alders. I believe that part-time citizen alders serve us well. They bring their everyday work and professional experience to the job. And it's also not clear to me, and this has been said, how reducing the size of the Common Council from 20 to potentially 10 alders makes the process more inclusive. It would fundamentally reduce the number of opportunities for citizens to serve their community by 50%. And you know, the projected compensation for reducing the staff to 10 full-time alders would be somewhere around $450,000 to $710,000 a year, plus benefits, given that they'd be full-time city employees. So rather than offering an opportunity for 20 Madisonians to run for alder in the district every 2 years, potentially 10 Madisonians would have an opportunity to run every 4 years. So rather than increasing opportunities to serve in the council, it does exactly the opposite. So as alder, I think what ought to drive you is a desire for great neighborhoods and strong community relationships. So we need strong problem solvers and community leaders, not more people on the city payroll.
Thank you. Now, this next one is a follow-up to one that came up earlier about public safety. And it goes, we'll do 90 seconds for this one. Please explain how you view the role of police in public safety. This one will go first to District 3, first to Charlie, 90 seconds.
I come from a military family. Just going to say that I've served with the military over a decade. I respect the work and the commitment that goes into wanting to serve your community by protecting them. And I want to support those officers. I have former classmates that are officers here. My basketball coach was an officer here. I support them, but they're overworked. We need to, I myself have been witness to a mental health officer not announcing themselves. That needs to be alleviated from them. I want to work to make sure they are provided for, that community confidence is restored. but I also know that we can't ask them to do everything and expect them to do it well. This is a hot button for me. So I really do believe that we can reimagine our society as a whole, and our policing structures are included in that reimagining of what a safe community looks like and what a civil servant who is called to protect looks like versus a civil servant who is called to be compassionate or informative or any other need that might be there at that moment.
Thank you. I'll turn it over now to Lindsay Lemmer. This is a 90-second question.
Thank you. I want to first quickly make a clarification. I supported the unanimous vote that the council made to put non-binding referendum questions on the spring ballot. That was not an indication of my positions on each of the questions. It was expressing the need to get feedback from the people that we represent. And then as far as policing, we're at a critical time when we are reimagining policing and the role of police. And I think that we need to acknowledge that we ask police to do too much. They are the first responders for everything. They are expected to be experts in just about every single area there is. That's why I supported and championed establishing mobile crisis units to respond to mental health calls and behavioral health calls. And that's something that has been broadly supported by police and the greater community. And I have a video interview with former Madison police officer Ryan Jennison, who's a mental health officer, and explains the value and the importance of having a mobile crisis unit program in Madison. And that's on my social media and on my website. And I encourage folks to give it a watch, but he really illustrates the issue really well of why we need to be reimagining the role of police, and why we need to be looking at solutions for this, and why police should not be the first responders to everything.
Oh, thank you very much. We'll go now to Matt Trammell. This is a 90-second question.
Yeah, I think that's a key word, reimagining how police and community relations work. And it is going to take all stakeholders. From the civic side, again, we need strong youth outreach and after school programs, a solid jobs and employment environment that promotes the dignity of work. We also need strong community centers and neighborhood associations and neighbor awareness, making sure that we're all working together to support public safety. But as this process unfolds and as we continue to have this conversation, and even as we manage through a potentially difficult budget year, we also need to support our police department with consistent funding. The 2019 patrol staffing report from the MPD found that in recent years, the department has eliminated 19 non-patrol officer positions, including the safety education unit, 2 neighborhood officer positions, and reductions to MPD's community policing teams, community outreach, and research education unit. So the cumulative impact of these cuts has been a significant reduction in the level of service that MPD is able to provide the community, and the increased crime statistics right now are reflecting that. So we'll need to work hard together as a community to reverse these trends.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over now to JL. This is a 1.5-minute question.
Thank you. So I kind of want to get back to the question at hand of what is our view of law enforcement's role, not what do we need to pour into public safety. And so I will preface this by being very vulnerable and saying myself and community members that look like me have generational trauma in regards to law enforcement. In that same token, I have family members, loved ones, friends that I respect very much that are part of Madison Police Department. But law enforcement is a system, and I think we lose sight of that. It's not personally. Once you put on a uniform and a badge, you represent a system. And unfortunately for BIPOC individuals, specifically Black and brown bodies, law enforcement has always existed to censor and punish us, not protect and serve, as we see across our Madison Police Department vehicles and many others. And so law enforcement does play a role in public safety, but through the evolution of our society and a lot of issues such as school shootings and terrorist attacks, I really look forward to redefining what law enforcement's role is in public safety, and utilizing expertise of colleagues like myself and others who are well-versed in social services and providing root needs to human and social needs.
Thank you very much. This will be the last question we're able to take before closing statements. I will put it into the chat because it is a bit involved, warning in advance. But it pertains specifically to city-county collaboration. And the question goes, what is the most important area in which leaders of the city of Madison, Dane County, and surrounding municipalities can work together to meaningfully improve the lives of everyone who lives here? This one will go first to District 3, Lindsay Lemmer. It'll be a 1.5-minute question, and I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there are a lot of really critical areas that the city and the county, can work together on. I think, and housing is kind of the top one that comes to mind. We've discussed a lot tonight Madison's housing crisis, and both the city and the county put funds aside to increase access to housing. And we've been making a dent, but we're still not at the 5% vacancy rate. So, and housing is such a critical issue to equity and to making sure that people's basic needs are met. So I think housing affordability is a key place where the city and county can work together on. And then of course public safety. There's been a lot of public safety topics that have been discussed a lot at both the city side and the county side over this past year, and that's an area where there's ample opportunity for collaboration. And then public health. Our public health department is both city and county, and health, looking at just about every issue that impacts us, you can take a public health lens for addressing those. So I think public health is another key area where we can be working together and collaborating.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over now to Charlie Rowe. This is a 90-second question.
Yeah, and it is a loaded one. I keep rereading it. I think one of my platforms, if you go to my website, it's Charlie Rowe for Madison. People have asked me, why do you keep doing this? And it's an old throwback East Side to La Follette. It's Madison, Wisconsin for life, because I'm a nerd like that. But it's transparency. Part of my platform is transparency in government. And I mean, it's these issues of we have these people running for office that are saying these perfect words, switching them up a little bit. But the truth is, they put $22,000 of their own funds into running for assembly in the middle of their first term as alder. How much work are they putting in other than what's expected? I want to have this transparency. We've been having good discussions here. We need to have intersectional discussions about services, making them equitable, recovering from COVID-19 equitably, making Wi-Fi available, working with the state and the other governing systems that we need to think, I keep using the word divergently, being on spectrum and being Aspergian, there's a creativity that we need to bring to the table when we talk about these issues of, are we really listening to the people? Are we representing them as we should as a common council to the upper levels of government? Because at the end of the day, we're running to be representatives of the people, not politicians for a higher office and then saying the right words.
Thank you very much. Go now to District 16. This one goes to JL Curry first.
All right. So I think it's been a difficult question in all the questionnaires and forums. What are 1 to 2, or what's the most important issue? And I think we're really remiss to focus on one singular issue, because in this instance, can you all hear me? Okay. In this instance, it disregards intersectionality. So earlier in the forum, Charlie mentioned our current council took steps towards proclaiming racism as a public health crisis. We hear about COVID-19 a lot. We talk about racism, we talk about the effects of it, but what does that truly mean in terms of focusing? And I think if we divert our attention to putting action behind racism as a public health crisis, it will intersect with all of the other issues that are affecting the livelihoods and well-being of Madisonians. So I do, there's already strong partnerships, for instance, in COVID response. Public Health Madison-Dane County, that is a collaboration of city and county already, and they have done amazing. I have been so amazed with all of the organization that they've put together, not only for testing, but now with vaccinations. I'm lucky enough to be one of the essential workers that was deemed in the first tier to get vaccinated. And so I look forward to having more of my neighbors and residents, but specifically BIPOC individuals, get vaccinated.
That is time. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Matt Trammell. This is a 90-second question.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about an opportunity right in front of us to do this. We certainly need strong coordination between the city and Dane County, particularly as the city is being granted $49 million and Dane County $106 million from the Biden administration's American Rescue Plan. Madison's City Council and Dane County's Board of Supervisors will be approving use of those federal aid funds. So it's really important to be aligned on goals. From my perspective, allocation of those funds needs to meet some very key criteria. It should be used to address racial disparities and ensure vaccines are reaching every community, including communities of color hit hardest by the pandemic. We need to keep frontline workers, such as our teachers, law enforcement, and healthcare workers on the job. We need to be assisting in securing PPE as necessary, distributing vaccines, and sanitizing public buildings. And we need to ensure a safe return in-person learning for students, teachers, and staff. I think further, the pandemic has shown us that we need a closer coordination with the university because the lack of communication and coordination on bringing students back to campus created some negative health outcomes across the community for a period of time. So along with the city and county, we really need to be strengthening relationships there to make sure that we're prepared to handle some of these issues better in the future.
Thank you very much. We're going to move now to closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give a closing statement. Based just on the order of things, we're going to start at District 3 with Charlie Rowe. I will turn the floor over now to you for 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Jacob. I know that in this new age of tech, these things are not easy to coordinate. Thank you, and Eastside Progressives for hosting and everybody for making time to be here. Of course, I'm going to ask everyone in District 3 to vote for me. I've said over and over because it's such a powerful story, and I got my nominations as this dark horse candidate, seeing a need that wasn't being filled for a real democracy, a real bipartisan. My roots here are as Charlie Johns and Elaine Johns' daughter growing up in Campus for Kids, Abundant Life. And that was a role that's a Madison that I know, but I also know the other Madison. I know what it's like to suffer from PTSD and suffer in the system because of the Madison police. I want to listen to my neighbors. I want to listen to you. And I know that we haven't been heard. I've stood in Common Council as a representative of the people, and we were denied. This is an office that is your voice. And I believe that it's time, as we all agree, we need people with lived experience in this office. And Lindsay says she's mentoring a BIPOC candidate for the day she perhaps leaves the office. If she wins maybe a different office, I don't know, but I'm here and I have the experience. I've been doing the grassroots work. I've worked on these issues. I've raised the funds. I have the networks. You can see Brian Benford is endorsing me. Ed LeMay is endorsing me. I didn't release my endorsements right up front because I'm not going to play politics. I'm not going to partner up and call somebody and say, you do this, you do that. These are people that know me, but I wanted you to know me first. I'm meeting you right now as I do doorless. Some of you are opening the door saying, thanks for running. And I'm just going to say, thanks for believing in me. Thanks for having a dream that we can really have a democratic and progressive Madison.
Thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Lindsay Lemmer now, 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you so much to the Eastside Progressives for this opportunity and for providing voters this way of learning more about their candidates so they can make an informed decision when they cast their ballot. The challenges that we face make me more committed than ever to working to make sure that our city emerges from this a safer, more equitable, and more inclusive and more thriving place to live, work, and to raise a family. I think our work reimagining public safety needs to take into account root causes and support solutions that aren't just reactive, but proactive. I'm proud that we're expanding the violence prevention unit within Public Health Madison and Dane County, and that we're doing this vital work through collaboration and partnership with organizations like the Focused Interruption Coalition. I'm proud that the city is establishing a pilot mobile crisis unit to respond to calls that are behavioral health emergencies and mental health issues. And I think that we have work to do expanding our usage of the Racial Equity and Social Justice Initiative framework, the framework that the city uses in making big decisions. We need to take bold action to emerge from this pandemic as the inclusive and thriving city we want it to be for everyone. And I am committed to working to get us there. You can learn more about my campaign at lindsayforalder.com and on Facebook. And please be sure to vote on April 6th, or you can vote from home by requesting your absentee ballot at myvote.wi.gov. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move over now to District 16, starting with Matt Trammell.
Thanks, Jacob. Well, first, I'd like to again thank the Eastside Progressives and everybody who joined us tonight. You can follow my campaign Facebook page at Matt Trammell for Alder, or you can learn more about me at my website, trammell416.com. I'm fighting for safe neighborhoods and strong communities, economic development on the East Side, effective and equitable COVID vaccine distribution and recovery, and sustainable growth-oriented transit solutions. I believe that the strength of the community is really can come from effective local government, and I believe that both things can be true. That Madison can be a great place to live for a growing population, and it can establish a reputation as one of the most sustainable, welcoming, equitable cities in the world. But we do have to plan for the future. This is our community together, and we need to focus on pro-growth and pro-people policies that support a strong economy and a high quality of life for every Madisonian. And I hope to earn the opportunity to work with the City Council to make Madison the best it can be. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'll turn the floor over now to JL Curry.
So I just want to start again by thanking everyone for staying with us. Looks like we'll finish ahead of time, but we got through a lot of questions tonight in a short amount of time. And so thank you for the thoughtful questions. I wish we had more time to answer them. But as I go back about the questions, we have discussed topics immersed in equity, environmental justice, sustainability, safety, economic relief and growth, local governance, transportation, and collaborations. And we know that all of these are all encompassing to what our next city council in April will be tasked with. The work is not going to be easy, but we have dedicated candidates. The first time in my 33 years on this earth, realizing how many people were running for local office and being engaged. I'm an engaged lifelong resident who has spent my life on the East Side, who is now raising children. I have not, again, an invested interest in this community as it is my home, but also as a Black woman, knowing disparate outcomes for folks that look like me, wanting to see everyone thrive. So bringing an equitable lens to the work, but also as a first-time candidate and a newbie, if elected, bringing humility, vulnerability, and transparency, as these are qualities that are highly missing from leadership. I look forward to working with you all. Know that whether or not I'm on the council, I will be involved and I will be in the community to higher heights. I know that I have not in the past, and the east side of Madison is a true gem that we need to invest everything in collaboratively and not look towards one person or a council to provide all the solutions for our city's issues. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to share my websites, but I know they've been dropped in the link in the chat. I do have a one-stop shop. It's a Linktree link, and it will connect you to all things moving Madison forward related. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that will conclude our forum. I want to remind everybody on or before the 6th of April is when this election will take place. I also want to remind everybody, please look at where your polling place is. A lot of them have changed owing to the pandemic and the fact that some of the Madison can't be used. Definitely look that up if you do plan on voting in person. This forum will be available on our YouTube channel about tomorrow morning or so once YouTube processes the link. So if any of your neighbors or friends missed it, feel free to send them that way. Finally, I will just say, if you think events like this are important, or if you think you can help us improve them, the Eastside Progressives would love your help. You can find us at eastsideprogressives.org or on Facebook at Eastside Progressives Madison, Wisconsin. I want to thank all of the candidates and all of the attendees tonight. This was wonderful, and I thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.